Alicia stared at her phone like it was a death sentence. The glow of the screen lit her pale face as she read and reread the same message from Marcus. Tomorrow. No excuses, or I tell your husband everything. Her stomach churned. She'd been living with this dread for weeks, ever since Marcus, the man with whom she cheated on Daniel, started blackmailing her. At first, she thought the affair had been a single moment of weakness she could bury forever, something no one would ever discover. But Marcus wouldn't let her forget. He'd approached her casually at first. Alicia, I don't want to make any trouble for you, but I could really use a financial favor. She hesitated, but guilt already weighed her down like a stone. If paying him some money would keep the secret safe, so be it. A one-time solution, she told herself. Yet it didn't end there. It began. Sensing power, Marcus became bolder. His texts grew more direct, demands larger. Alicia realized, to her horror, that no matter how much she handed over, he'd never be satisfied. Now he was demanding a bigger lump sum and threatened to expose everything if she refused. Fear of losing her marriage, of being humiliated in front of friends and family, consumed her. Each day was a performance of normalcy, wearing a mask while panic brewed underneath. Meeting Marcus to give him money was sheer torment. She invented excuses for Daniel, claiming she had errands or a friend's crisis, or that she just needed me time. Some nights she said she was staying overnight at her sister's. In truth, she drove to deserted parking lots or quiet back streets where Marcus would be waiting, that smug grin etched on his face. The last time they met was in a dimly lit parking garage. Alicia stepped out of her car, gripping an envelope in trembling hands. Marcus counted the bills one by one, savoring her desperation. "This'll do for now," he said, slipping the money into his coat, "but we'll be seeing each other again real soon." Alicia swallowed her anger and fear. She desperately wanted to scream at him, to say she couldn't keep this up. But her terror of him revealing the affair paralyzed her. Back home that night, she found Daniel, her husband of 7 years, waiting with a gentle smile. He offered her a glass of wine, saying, "You seem tense. Thought this might help you relax." Her heart clenched. How could he remain so kind, so devoted, when she was hiding such an unforgivable secret? She thanked him, but her hands shook taking the glass. Daniel noticed. "You all right?" She forced a hollow smile. "Just tired," she lied. He looked at her a second longer than usual, worried but not pushing. Alicia took a shaky sip, trying, and failing, to pretend her world wasn't crumbling. She slept poorly, body beside Daniel's, but mind racing with guilt and dread. If he woke to see her eyes, he'd read the panic there. But Daniel kept sleeping peacefully, oblivious that his wife's betrayal was overshadowed by the threat of blackmail. Running out of excuses, the next day, Alicia couldn't function at work. Emails blurred, phone calls went unanswered. She kept replaying Marcus' latest demand, more money or he'd tell Daniel everything. No matter what she gave him, he'd never stop. That evening she returned home and Daniel was in the living room reading. His presence felt like a knife twisting. He had no idea how fragile their life was. Over dinner, he tried to chat about a trip they considered taking, but Alicia could hardly meet his gaze. She excused herself early to bed, the same swirl of panic in her stomach. By midnight, she was wide awake, staring at Daniel's silhouette as he slept. Guilt was a vice crushing her chest. Another text from Marcus popped up on her phone, just a sneering reminder that time was ticking. Alicia realized this couldn't continue. She would unravel. So she summoned the last scrap of courage and resolved to do something. The next morning, she made a decision, heart pounding. She would tell Daniel before Marcus could beat her to it. At least if Daniel heard it from her, maybe there'd be a tiny chance he'd forgive her. Confession. When Daniel woke up, Alicia had spent hours rehearsing how to speak. The moment his eyes opened, she felt tears forming. He instantly knew something was wrong. Her face was drawn with fear, her hands shaking. "Alicia," he asked, voice still groggy from sleep, "what's happened?" She could scarcely speak. Then, in halting sentences, she confessed everything. The affair with Marcus, how it started in a brief lapse of judgment, how she felt it was a one-time mistake. She admitted Marcus was blackmailing her, extorting money, and that she was terrified of Daniel discovering it from some humiliating public exposure. Silence weighed on the room. Daniel listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. Alicia, sobbing, concluded by begging for forgiveness. She said she couldn't keep lying, that she was cornered and had run out of options. Finally, Daniel spoke, voice quiet but sharp. "He's blackmailing you?" She nodded, tears streaming. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" She tried to explain her terror of losing him, how humiliating it all was. He simply got up, grabbed his phone from the nightstand, and began scrolling. Alicia had no idea what he was doing. "I need to see everything," he finally said. "Messages, receipts, bank transfers. All of it." She complied, sending him every text from Marcus. Daniel read them in grim silence. The calmness with which he scrolled was more frightening than anger. When he finished, he looked up at her. "We're ending this," he stated with icy resolve. That same day, Alicia watched him make phone calls to acquaintances, possibly to law enforcement. She felt fear and relief all at once. Fear because she had no idea how Daniel would handle it. Relief because maybe the blackmail would finally end. That night, Daniel told her, "Invite Marcus to collect his next payment. Tell him you have what he wants. We'll finish it." Alicia obeyed, trembling as she texted Marcus, "I have your money. Tomorrow night, same place." Marcus replied at once, "Don't be late." Though she was petrified, Alicia could do nothing but trust Daniel's plan. The meeting. The next evening, Alicia drove to the deserted parking lot, just as she'd done countless times. She parked under a flickering streetlight and waited. Marcus arrived shortly after, stepping out of his car with the same smug grin. She felt fresh loathing seeing that expression. "So you do love me after all," he mocked, hand extended. "Money, please." She silently handed him an envelope stuffed with cash. He peeked inside, counting swiftly. "Good, this should do. Now we can keep this arrangement going. That's how it'll be, Alicia, remember that." His arrogance made her want to scream, but before she could respond, headlights blazed as another car roared into the lot, tires screeching. Doors flew open. Voices shouted, "Police! Hands up!" Marcus's bravado vanished. He tried to run, but was tackled almost instantly. They cuffed him, ignoring his shouted curses. Alicia stood frozen, heart hammering. In the swirl of police radio chatter and the flash of red and blue lights, she saw a calm figure stepping from a nearby vehicle. Daniel. He locked eyes with her for a moment, but she couldn't read his expression. Marcus was shoved into a squad car, the envelope of money seized as evidence. The door slammed, the car pulled away, just like that. The blackmailer was gone. Aftermath. A marriage in ruins. Alicia's hands shook as the police left. She felt unsteady but also hopeful that she'd be free from Marcus's threats. However, as she turned toward Daniel's car, she realized he wasn't wearing a triumphant smile. He looked distant, almost numb. She approached him timidly. "Daniel?" He stared at her a second, then spoke quietly. "It's done. Marcus won't be hurting you anymore." She attempted a slight nod, but her relief was dampened by the coldness in Daniel's tone. She stammered, "Thank you. I'm so sorry. I never." Daniel cut her off with a subtle shake of his head. "Alicia, this was never just about Marcus. It was about you and me and what you did." She felt tears well up. She tried to meet his gaze, but he looked away. Then, wordlessly, he climbed into his car and shut the door. The engine started, and Alicia helplessly watched him drive off, taillights disappearing into the darkness. That night, Alicia returned to their home. But the house felt foreign, as if Daniel's presence had vanished. She barely slept, mind swirling with guilt. She'd hoped his quiet reaction was just shock, that they could rebuild. But deep down, she suspected she'd lost him, not from blackmail, but from her own betrayal. Sure enough, Daniel walked in the next morning stoic. He wordlessly headed to the bedroom and began gathering clothes into a suitcase. Alicia hovered, tears streaming. She asked him to stay, pleaded for a second chance. He barely responded, zipping the suitcase. Finally, Daniel spoke in a weary voice. "I did what I had to do, but that doesn't mean I can forget what you did. I can't live with someone I no longer trust." She begged him, sobbing. "I love you, Daniel. I know I messed up, but..." He sighed heavily. "If I still felt the love I used to, I'd be shouting. I'd be furious, but I'm not. I'm empty. That's worse than anger, Alicia." With that, he walked out, leaving Alicia trembling in the hallway. Conclusion, a lonely lesson. In a single night, Alicia lost her blackmailer to handcuffs, but lost her husband to heartbreak. The hush that followed Marcus's arrest was not a victory, but a devastation. She stayed there stunned, reflecting on how fear of losing Daniel had driven her into secrecy and how that secrecy ended up costing her everything anyway. Daniel wasn't coming back. She realized her punishment wasn't public shame or extortion. It was the final, quiet absence of the man she truly loved, and who had truly loved her until she shattered that bond. The next weeks passed in a haze. Alicia sometimes stared at the spot on the couch where Daniel used to sit, or the place in the kitchen where he'd pass her a cup of tea. She recognized painfully that even though she'd resolved the blackmail, she'd undone her marriage in the process. But if there was any consolation, it lay in this: the hidden secrets that stifle us can be faced, and the final cost of deception can be immeasurable. Alicia learned the price was losing a life with the person she cared about most, and from that, no blackmail or threat could compare to the heavy weight of her own regret.